Australian flowers are loving the limelight. With influencers and artists styling them in spectacular arrangements. And right now, you'll pay a pretty penny for a bunch of these beautiful blooms. But if you're anything like me, you'll want to grow your own. But before we get started, let's get something straight. When we're talking about Australian native flowers, I mean species that are from Australia and not their ancient Gondwanan relatives. And that's right, Instagrammers, I am looking at you. Now, proteas and leucadendrons are beautiful plants, and they are related to lots from Australia, but they are not native flowers, at least not for about 180 million years. Some of our most iconic Aussie species are also some of the best cut flowers, with many producing large blooms over a long season. Banksias, what's not to love? Now, in most parts of Australia, there's bound to be a Banksia that will thrive near you. And so many of them make great cut flowers. There's around 170 different species, from trees to large shrubs, dwarf cultivars, and spectacular standards like this one. The conical inflorescence is comprised of hundreds of individual flowers and also last well in a vase. Many Hakeas flowers also live long in a vase, with a huge variety of foliage and flower forms. Hakeas francisiana and Hakeas bucculenta are beauties, but any Hakeas is worth a try. And once the flowers are finished, their woody seed pods also look great. A good thing to remember when picking flowers from woody shrubs is to resist going all the way into bare wood. It is much more likely that they'll recover and reshoot from a stem with foliage left on it. The Waratah is another florist's favourite, and I reckon most Australian gardeners would have had a crack at cultivating one. Now, there are a handful of species, but the big red Sydney Waratah is the queen of cut flowers. Now, they need shelter, perfect drainage and consistent moisture. But if you don't have the perfect spot in the garden, then you could try growing one in a pot. Now, use a good quality native potting mix and position it in a spot that is sheltered from hot winds and the western sun. Now, water well and wait for the show. Grevilleas, Aussie garden royalty. Now, there are many that'll hold well in a vase, but a word of caution if you are cutting. The sap of some Grevilleas is a common allergen, so make sure you wear gloves and long sleeves when you are picking or cutting the flowers. And position them in a spot where they can be seen, but not touched. Short-lived annual and perennial pickers will always brighten your garden as well as your vase. The easy-grown Pelargonium australe are a perfect example. Now, they'll generously fill sunny spots in the garden with enough to spare for a bouquet. Of course, kangaroo paw. They'll leave an indelible paw print when it comes to flowers. Almost anywhere you are in southern Australia, there is an everlasting daisy for you. From the seas of annual rhodanthe to the adaptable and beautiful xerochrysum species. While they're fantastic when freshly cut, they can also be dried for an even longer lasting display. Whilst flowers are so often the focus, foliage also provides some stunning displays. And growing a good supply at home can make the most of even a few seasonal flowers. So just like the garden, grey, green foliage is a great complement for flowers of almost any colour. Thick, luscious wattles are an obvious choice, but also tea trees and eucalypts with their grey, green and even burgundy foliage produced in abundance. Some might think that picking is cruel, but in many cases, picking is good pruning. In fact, some of the most popular eucalypts used by florists are pruned to the ground, resulting in bursts of stunning juvenile growth. You can pick your plant and shape it at the same time. And don't forget the grasses. With soft, elegant foliage, flowers and seed heads, they can provide the perfect balance for any bunch. All right, it's time to make a bouquet. And here I've got some Banksias, Geraldton wax, kangaroo paw, argyle apple. I'm not that great of a florist, but I'm going to have a crack. The kanga's going to be my feature. We'll see how that works. Put these in here. Got these two gorgeous big Banksias here. I reckon it's all right. Native flower bouquet. It's enough to make a big fellow weep. If you're anything like me, you won't need any excuse for more native plants. Next time, why not think about a few extras for picking?